morning, listeners and viewers. Another episode of Rendezvous with Murielle, the podcast to inspire you to go for your dreams and become magnetic to people, opportunities, and even love. If you don't know me, I'm a relationship coach and the founder of Date Like a French Woman, where I teach women how to become the one that would attract the love that they want in their life. And today, I'm excited to interview someone that has a very, very interesting story and inspiring, because he's the living proof that you can be on the top, go down, and then go back to the top again. So life is never certain. That's the only certainty. His name is Robb Selander. I hope I'm not butchering your name.
Selander.
Selander, sorry.
No problem. Everybody does.
He's an entrepreneur, consultant, marketing expert, coach, and trainer. He has spent his career working with both large corporations and startup companies. He's the co-author of the book Marketingplan Today and heads of operations for Marketingplan Today in the United States. He's also launching another company in the coming weeks called Accountability Mates, which is aimed at keeping small business owners and entrepreneurs on track as they navigate the challenges of building and growing their businesses. That's us, guys. Robb lived 14 years in the Netherlands, where he worked with organizations such as Vodafone, Shell Oil, Cisco Systems, and Microsoft. Welcome, Robb. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited because people sometimes have the feeling that certain people are like instant success, but everybody faces challenges and you had your own.
Yes.
I would love if you could tell people your story, starting wherever you want to start and taking us on your journey.
Okay, I'll start. Let's see. So I was living in the Netherlands and I had really the dream job that I had always been working for. So I was making a lot of money. I was single. I lived a very, very wonderful life. Living in Europe, going to theater in London and shopping in Paris and Milan. I really lived that life. And then I got sent to India. And during my time in India is when the recession hit. So suddenly my income was gone. My job was gone. And I thought, I didn't think anything of it. I thought, no big deal, I'll get another job. And months went by, and then a year or two went by, and no work. I lost my house in Amsterdam. I lost all my clothes. I lost a good percentage of my friends. And I lost myself. I got to a point where one day I decided I was done. I had turned off my phone, went off social media, and decided today's the day. I'm done. I can't take it anymore. I don't want to take it anymore. Fate intervened, and I managed to crawl back out of that over the course of several months, thanks to some wonderful, wonderful friends. And then about a year and a half later, on Christmas Eve in 2011, just as I was getting everything back together, just as I thought, okay, this is it, I was on my way to South Africa to move, to look for work there. I was in Tanzania and I had a blood clot in my brain. And suddenly I forgot how to walk. I know it sounds funny, but I could use my legs, but I didn't know how to walk. It was really a surreal experience. So I was a week in the hospital, several weeks learning how to walk, among other things. About 2.5 years battling depression. Because what they don't tell you with a stroke is that the strokes can be deadly, of course. It's stuff going on in your brain. But the depression after a stroke is often more fatal than the stroke itself. Because for me, I lost my identity. I didn't know who I was. My voice changed. I put on 30 pounds in a month. I couldn't walk like I used to walk. I didn't talk like I used to talk. There were little changes in my personality. My face changed. I have a droopy eye a little bit. All these little things that when I looked in the mirror, I was a complete stranger. I had all my memories, but I wasn't me in the mirror. It was not me looking back. And that took several years to build back up. And about 2 years after that stroke, I had another stroke. Just as I was coming out of that one, it happened again. And it wasn't as bad as far as I still was able to walk and all of that, but the depression hit again. And that was scary because depression is very dark for anybody who's been there. It's an incredibly dark space. And again, I came out of it, again, with the help of a lot of friends and family and a lot of journaling and a lot of perseverance. And I don't really know where some of that came from. Just, I didn't give up. And now, 3 years after that stroke, I've got a great relationship, a wonderful job, starting 2 companies, have written a book, co-written a book, putting together another book. I've adopted a child who's now about to be 9. So it's a completely different space. And 3 years ago, I was again to the point of, I don't know why I want to go on. I really had a lot of difficulty finding that reason. In fact, this time 3 years ago, I was right in the middle of it because I had the stroke at the end of May in 2014. So 3 years ago today, I probably would have been laying in bed, not really sure why I should ever get out of it.
Wow. I mean, if one stroke wasn't enough, you had a second one. That's huge. And I hear a lot of stories where people touched rock bottom, and that's probably what you did too. And then they rose, I think. I think I'm not correct in English.
They raise back up, yes. Rise back up, something like that.
Where there's somebody completely different than before. Did you experience that?
Did I what?
Do you experience yourself completely differently?
Yes. I spent about 3 years living in a dual world. There was this old me that I really wanted back, that I missed, the me that traveled and went to London to go to the theater and, Tel Aviv to go to the beach, and that had this certain life. And then there was the post-stroke me that was just very different, and not different to where you knew me casually, you would probably notice any difference. But my close friends, my family definitely knew a difference. And that was a really difficult thing to calibrate. And now when I look back and I read the things, because I used to blog a lot, the things about my life and what was important, I don't recognize that person so much anymore. It's like I remember that person, but it's more like somebody that like a distant relative that I hung out with for a while, but I haven't seen in a long time. I don't know how else to put it. It's almost an out-of-body type of thing where I know it was me, but it doesn't feel like it was me.
It's very uncut interview. So I'm going to just ask you, can you put your mic a little bit backward because I get an echo and I want the sound to be great.
Yeah. Is that okay?
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
And so do you know exactly what changed in your focus in life? Like, what do you see today, and what is the focus that you would have now that you didn't have before?
I think before, like a lot of, we live in a culture which is all about entitlement. It's all about quantity. It's all about right now, and a lot of, being in the moment and being really for ourselves. And I think when you have a stroke, when you go through something like that, for me at least, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, you've got all these beautiful clothes hanging in your closet, but you can't walk. And you've got all this really great furniture, but you don't have any friends anymore. And you're very alone because nobody understands what's going on. And I think that now, for me, it forced me to look back and question what was really important in life. And it wasn't the things, it's really the moment. It's the people, for me at least, making the world a better place. I know it sounds a little cliche, but I always try to do things that I think will either help somebody or make at least a little piece of the world I navigate in a little bit better in whatever way that means.
Like more like making a difference somehow.
Making it what?
Making a difference somehow.
Exactly. Whether it's helping people knowingly or helping people without knowing that you're helping them. I became very aware of the sort of the ripple effect.
Yes.
You know, that like if I'm nice to somebody or if I'm unkind to somebody, they're going to carry that on. So I may be unkind to you, but because of that, you may be unkind to 3 other people.
True.
And it ripples out. So I try to remember that. I don't always succeed, of course. I don't think anybody does. But I try to remember that, and I try to, be intentional with my actions. I try to be intentional with my internal dialogue, because that's something I really learned while I was going through the depression. That's incredibly important. And I think that, before, where I would have been really driven by gaining stuff and status and all of that, I really don't care about that anymore. I like nice things, but I really don't care.
Yeah, because it's not.
There's just more important stuff. You're right. It doesn't do you any good when you're laying unconscious in a hospital bed to have, a bunch of books or expensive shoes or something. It really doesn't matter anymore.
It's true. I know that I went through something that's not to compare at all. But I was hospitalized and the doctors literally told me that they were not sure I would make it. So I had my kids around me and I didn't care about anything else. And then when I went back into the regular life, somehow things seem easier. It flows better. You don't have so much resistance to stuff. Do you experience that too? Is it easier or is it?
I don't think it's easier. I think my perspective changed. One thing that I sort of in the middle of everything falling apart, I started really studying a lot of Buddhism. Mm-hmm. And one thing that I really love about it is the idea that we're not guaranteed anything in life. The only guarantee is death. And at first I thought that was a really harsh and sort of morbid idea. But what I realized it was about was that, we're not guaranteed health, we're not guaranteed happiness or love or family or friends or beauty, any of those things. And that when we have those things, each one of those things and each moment of those things, because they can go away, as did my walking,
yes,
is a gift for however long it's here. And, some of those gifts last a lifetime. Some of those gifts last maybe a few years or just a few minutes, but it's always still a gift.
And I think it's important to realize that, like you said, we're humans and we're not going to be always enlightened because of experience. So you're going to have moments where you're going to get mad for nothing. To accept that too and to practice self-forgiveness for the moments where you forget what's really the most important thing. Are you more, I wouldn't say careful, but do you have a different filter for who you let into your life and who you don't let into your life?
I am extremely selective now. In some ways I can't be because of what I do. I work for an organization where we consult with everybody, and I do a lot of public speaking and I do a lot of things around town. So I'm not always in control of who I'm exposed to, but I'm incredibly protective of who gets let into my life.
Yes.
And not only the people, but also what TV shows do I watch, what books do I read, what music do I listen to. And it's difficult because there's a lot of things I really like. And there's people that I think are really fun to be around, but I've noticed they're not good people for me to be around, or it's not the right music or the right TV show for me to take in. You know what I mean? Like when, you can go and you can eat, food that's really tasty, and it's great every once in a while. But if you make a steady diet of it, slowly it starts, it starts doing the damage. And I've had to realize that with people. I've got friends that I can count on 1 to 2 hands that really truly know who I am. That's a very small group of people. And the people that I give access to, that part of my life, that's a very select list. I'm a big fan of Brene Brown.
Yes.
who always talks about, people have to earn the right to hear your story. They have to earn that space to be involved. And I've really learned to listen to my gut. And if something feels off about somebody, I've learned to pay attention to that.
Absolutely.
Usually when I don't pay attention, that person goes out of their way to prove to me why I should have paid attention to that. So,
I always see people tell you who they are really quickly.
And over and over and over again. Yes, no, exactly. That's one of my favorite quotes by Maya Angelou. When people tell you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yes. Ooh, I thought it was, okay. Do you believe in energy? Because as far as TV shows, music, and other kinds of exposure, I know for me, because I do Reiki, shows that I just feel that energy and I can't tolerate. Do you experience that too? Do you believe in energy?
I did. I believed in it, but I wasn't sure how I truly believed in it. But after I had the first stroke, it's strange because one of the things that reset was my sensitivity to energy. Because obviously your brain goes through a lot of stuff. And I lost some of the skills, mental skills I used to have. I gained some skills that I never had before. But one of the things that I had was I was so sensitive to the energy. I could not go out to public places because I could walk into a room and I could point and I knew who was depressed. I knew who was angry. I knew who was happy. And it was so overwhelming to me that I would have to leave. I couldn't handle it. And they didn't have to be doing anything. They could have been sitting there reading a book, but I would feel the anger, the depression, the happiness, or whatever. And it was so overwhelming that I just became a hermit for a while. I dreaded going out in public. And I had to build up that wall again. It's a similar thing that infants and dogs have. You can walk into a house and if you're in a bad mood, you don't have to yell at your dogs or anything, or the infant, but they're going to react according to your mood, regardless of what your actions are.
Yes, because they feel we read each other.
Yes, and that was a really difficult thing for me to understand because for the first month, I didn't understand what was going on. I actually thought I was going crazy because I didn't know. It's almost like, you see these TV shows about people being able to read people's minds, and it ends up ultimately not being a good thing. It was similar to that. I couldn't read their minds, but I could read their emotions.
Yeah.
But I would also take those emotions on. I would onboard everything, and then I didn't know how to get rid of it, because it wasn't something like, you just roll in the mud and you take a shower. I didn't know how to get clean of everybody else's emotional baggage. It was really tough. And sometimes if I'm really tired and that wall is down, that still happens. Like I can't be around a lot of negative people or a lot of depressed people because even if they don't talk to me, I just feel it. It makes me very uncomfortable.
It's almost palpable. That's how.
Yes.
There are certain people I can't have them around me.
Yes, and there are people, they'll walk into a room and I can feel the energy change. Yeah. But also for positive people, I have a friend of mine, I walked into a room and I felt her energy. That was the day that we met. I knew I had to meet that person and we became very good friends. So it worked. It has its good things as well.
Yes. And when you're talking about a wall, it's true. You can actually shield yourself somehow.
Yes.
Energy-wise and being protected, but it's an intentional thing. And when you forget, then you're.
I think that we as humans, I think we're born with that ability to just sense emotion and sense energy. And like a lot of things, I think we unlearn that, or we learn to block it and not pay attention to it to a point that we don't even realize we're not paying attention anymore. We just aren't. And I think that was certainly my case. But then suddenly, I had a blood clot and you're unconscious. And all of a sudden, the chemicals in your brain are going crazy and your brain's rewiring and figuring things out. And all of a sudden, I would also have other issues. Like I would get very I wouldn't throw a temper tantrum, but I get really angry really quick about like nothing, just like a toddler does. It's like, I want to eat now. And if I can't eat now, I'm going to be very upset. Certainly not acting like, the 43, 44-year-old that I was. Not at all.
But it's usually repressed anger that you've never actually worked with and brought to the surface to let go.
Right. And it was also just learning how to deal with anger because, again, my brain reset. And there's no rhyme or reason as to what resets or to where it resets. And I wasn't infantile. I had certain issues. And patience, I lost all my patience.
About your experience today in business, for example, are there some things that you consider like assets that you took out of your experience that you're using to build your success?
Yes. One of the things I took out of it was, first off, I really had to become I had to get a really good sense of belief in myself.
Okay.
Because when everything is going great, it's very easy to believe in ourselves when everything's really going good, right? We're a success, we're making a lot of money, everything's great. It's super easy to believe in ourselves and try to make the world a better place. But when I went through the stroke, I went through a phase of, I did get probably twice to the point where I actively wanted things to end. But for the most part, I was just in a space where I just didn't know why I was alive. I had no reason to get out of bed. I had no reason to eat. I had no reason to take a shower. And I had to find that space in myself. And sometimes the reason was just because you deserve to, right? You need to feed your body. You need to do these things.
Wow.
But doing that made me very confident in my self-reliance. So I know I can deal with anything. And having lost, things like the ability to walk, and I can walk again, just in case anybody's wondering. I can't walk very well.
I've seen it, guys.
What?
I said, I've seen it. Miracle.
Exactly. So, because, when you're in business, whether you're in business for yourself or you're just, you're working for somebody, there's a lot of rejection.
Yes.
And I think, you really have to have that space in you that says, okay, I've been rejected, but that is not reflective of who I am. It's not reflective of my self-worth. It's not reflective of my brains or my skill set. It just, for whatever reason, it's a no. Whatever reason. And that's very difficult, I think, for a lot of people to realize, because it is we put so much importance on, oh, I made this deal, therefore I'm successful, therefore I'm a good business person, or I lost that deal, therefore I'm a bad business person, or I'm not as smart as I thought I was. And the stroke really took me back to the core, I think, of who I was. And it really made me find that space of why do I do what I do? And I don't do what I do to make money. Yes, I need money for bills. Yes, I like to travel. I don't care about nice cars. I don't care about big homes. I'm not interested in, living large and showing off. I'm interested in, I work so that my family can have a better, I would say, experience of life.
Yes.
More time with my son, doing things, going to the beach or going on hikes or just hanging out, reading a book. So that's, I think, for me, what I've learned is really also just the importance of why I do what I do.
Yes.
And not to take, like I said, the opinion of other people, good idea, bad idea, good person, smart person. It's not my identity, it's what I do.
It's so much more mature as a way to behave in the world, because you're not triggered every right and left like
right. If somebody doesn't like, a speech I give or a training I do or a business idea or even this webinar, that's fine. I'm okay with that. And there was a time where I would have beaten myself up over it. I would have spiraled down into some weird, I'm not worthy. I don't belong here. That whole imposter syndrome thing. And I don't do that anymore, or at least, and if I do start to do that, I catch myself and I quickly say, you know what, this isn't a good use of my time.
Yes. And I think we've all done it.
Oh,
And
we do.
get to a point where we're like, that's not what I want to experience because it's not fun.
Right, but you also have to have that thing in yourself where you could say, not only is this not what I want to experience, but these are the things I'm going to do to change that.
Yes.
Whether it's a relationship, whether it's your job, your career, whatever that is, it's very easy to say, I don't like this, but you have to be able to say, and here's what I'm going to do to change it. And I really learned that when it came time to walk, because I was living in Tanzania at the time. I didn't go to a rehabilitation place. There was nobody to tell me to get up and walk. There was no nurse. I wasn't being pushed like you see in the movies where people recover. I didn't have that. I had to get myself off the couch. I had to get myself to walk. I had to do those things. Or I knew there would come a point I was never going to walk again.
So you have a very strong inner strength. And do you remember, did you have hope? Because to be able to take action when you're like this, you must have some kind of seeds of hope that it's going to be different. Otherwise, why even bother?
Hope came and went. I blogged about my whole experience after, so I've been able to go back and read it because I wanted to make sure I remembered it correctly. And there were times, and I remember days when I didn't want to get off the couch. I wasn't going to walk. I didn't care if I ever walked again. And then there were days where I was so driven that, I was going to do this and I was going to prove the doctors wrong. It was really a roller coaster. And it was a lot of, 2 steps forward, 15 steps back.
Wow.
I would walk, I'd be really good. I'd walk for the first couple days. I think the first day I walked 7 steps and I was exhausted. I mean, it was just 7 steps, holding on to everything. And I was exhausted. And that's frustrating because you think, how am I ever going to walk? And then when I could walk, I walked like I was drunk. And I was so full of shame. I was so embarrassed. I was so humiliated that then I didn't walk because I didn't want people to see me walk poorly.
And that's something also I find a lot when we get affected with some kind of physical challenge or limitation or disease. Mm-hmm. There is a shame factor that makes it even harder to process. And
it's strange because the stroke did not happen due to anything I did. It wasn't, I was very active. 6 months before, I had gone hiking partway up Mount Kilimanjaro. I'm a snowboarder, scuba diver, rock climber, hiking, you name it, whitewater rafting. I love doing it. And in fact, when the first stroke happened, I was in Tanzania planning an adventure trip to South Africa. We were going to go hiking up Table Mountain, diving with the great white sharks, skydiving on New Year's Day. And then the stroke happened, and I really had a lot of shame. And I didn't realize I had it for about 5 or 6 months. When I actively said, "Ooh, I've got a lot of shame around this." And I still don't know why I had that, because it wasn't like, oh, I should have known better than to, do this or not do that. I was in shape. I was active. I didn't smoke. I rarely drank. I was very, I was very trim. I didn't have any, there was no reason why I should have had that stroke. It was just a blood clot in one part of my brain.
So was the shame at the level of I've been sick and I'm sick and somehow somewhere in the mind it's my fault, or now I am in a state where I cannot do things normally and I'm ashamed of that?
I think a combination of both. I felt flawed. I felt less than. I felt imperfect. I felt disabled. And there's nothing wrong with those things, but those were all new feelings for me. I guess in a lot of ways, I felt maybe useless or worthless, or I haven't really thought about that question actually, but it was a massive combination of things. And I'm still, honestly, 5 years later, 5.5 years later, I'm still revisiting and I'm still trying to sort out and,
Yes.
what a lot of those feelings were and where they came from, because I had great, great, great support from family and friends. I had an amazing support system and everything else. But and that was all an internal thing. It was all an internal thing. I thought maybe, I thought maybe, well, maybe I deserve this because of, things I've done in the past, or maybe, I'm only worthy of this kind of like, it really took it, I, it,
You had to re-examine so many things.
On everything, yeah.
And maybe also because in our society here in the United States, we are judged and assessed a lot on our accomplishment,
yes,
and what we do. So when we're no longer able to do in the way that we were before, it hurts us somehow.
Yeah, and I was one of those people, and Facebook was a great invention for someone like me, because not only could I live this very glamorous life, I could let everybody else know I was living it, but all of a sudden, I wasn't having brunch in Brussels and shopping in Paris anymore.
Yeah.
I was stuck on a couch, unable to read, unable to write, unable to watch TV, unable to walk, unable to cook my own food, unable to shower myself. It was, I don't know why, but it was humiliating for me, because I've always been my friends used to always say, whatever Rob wants, Rob gets, because I would go and I would make it happen. And suddenly life had said, okay, you're just going to stop and sit there and just be. I hated it.
So in a way, wherever you were finding some kind of value before wasn't there suddenly.
That was all gone. Yeah. Everything I thought was important.
Find a way to retrieve this value, reconnect with it.
Well, I had to find different value, but I had to find real value, because my value before was really on, okay, if I travel, I've always said, if I had plane tickets, I was somebody, if I had, and I did all these things, and suddenly I couldn't, and I really had to find out, I didn't know who I was. When you took away the travel, when you took away the clothes, when you took away the furniture and everything else, who was I really at the core? And I didn't know at all. I had no clue.
So is there some positive that came out of that today that you can say, of course, maybe not like I'm grateful for the experience, but I turned it into something so positive that I'm not stuck on the fact that it happened to me?
Yeah, I don't think about it happened to me anymore. And there was, 3 years ago, we would not be having this conversation. I would not have been able to get through it or answer questions. I think it's made me compassionate. I think it's made me realize, in a good way, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to achieve everything I set out for, that it's okay to make a mistake. It's okay to fail, if you will. But also, like I said, it's really taught me to put my energy in things that are really valuable now.
Yes.
So, my son, my friends, my health. So, I go to the gym, I eat healthy, but I also take time out. I go out. There's certain places out here in the desert in Nevada that I love to go to, because there's no cell coverage, there's no radio coverage, and they're very close to Las Vegas, but I'm forced to just disconnect and reset or recalibrate or whatever, even if it's just for an hour. I've learned it's very important to take that time.
Yes.
And especially when we don't have that time, it's even more important to take that time.
Yes.
And I'm very busy, like a lot of people, but I have to do it.
That brings me to my favorite subject, which is self-love.
Yes.
And a lot of the stuff that you said you were doing here are in the realm of self-love, like going in nature and exercising, eating right. What is your definition of self-love?
For me, I'm going to say, for me, it's accepting myself flaws and all. There was a time where I would do anything and everything to ignore the flaws, cover them up. I don't anymore. I don't have the energy. I don't have the time. I don't have the desire.
Yeah.
This is what you get. You know, there's good, there's not so good. That's it. And I think that with that, it lets me navigate a lot of things. I don't beat myself up anymore. I don't, lay there thinking, well, everybody would be better off if I wasn't here because I just mess everything up. It's okay, I messed up. Now, what am I going to do different? Or that didn't go the way I thought it was. So what can I do different next time? And that's a huge thing.
Oh, yes.
And I'm not going to say never beat myself up because of course I do. It's,
no perfect.
Again, I catch it and
Yes.
I give myself permission
Yes.
to be imperfect. And that to me is self-love.
That is actually the ultimate version of self-love, because it's something that when you're able to do that, what's left? I mean,
Right.
You are with who you are and you are authentic at all times. So you don't try to hide behind something.
Right.
You accept the whole of who you are. So that's
And
beautiful.
what's really helped is, having an 8-year-old son who he doesn't care how much money I make. He doesn't care what my titles are. He doesn't care how many people around town know who I am, come to hear me speak, he doesn't care. He just wants me to read a bedtime story and just cuddle. He'll just come in the mornings and he just wants the hug. He doesn't care about the rest of it. He doesn't care about the clothes. He doesn't care about anything. He really doesn't. And that's so refreshing because that to me is, I want to be more like him. I want to be able to just live in that space of this is what's truly important, And what's more important, making a good business deal or reading a bedtime story? I'm going to say right now, probably reading the bedtime story, because that to me, because I'm aware that time with him is very limited. He's about to be 9.
Yes.
I've probably got another good year and a half or so of bedtime stories, and that's it.
Yes.
I've got a lifetime of business deals I can do.
And before you know it, he will be in college.
Don't even say that. I'm dreading that. I'm moving with him. I decided already.
My oldest.
I'll move right in dorm. I'm going to be dorm dad.
But children are always, not always, but very often our best teachers.
Yes.
Because they push our limits, so they force us to.
Oh, yes. And they mirror ourselves back to us, too. And that is sometimes excruciating.
It is.
Because he'll do things, and he'll come back, and I'm like, on one hand, he's getting in trouble, but then there's a part of me like, he's just the way you are.
Well, we teach
yeah, it's a very interesting reflection to see myself reflected back that way.
It is. And I know for myself, I see a lot of my parents as well. Sometimes I catch myself and I'm like, what am I doing? That's
exactly. Or you say something and it's your dad's voice coming out of your mouth. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And they're like, I swear I would never say that.
Exactly. So if people want to connect with you or find more information about what you're doing, where can they find you?
I'll just give my personal email address. That's the best. It's just rselander, SELANDER @gmail.com. I'm happy to, talk to people, answer questions, whatever, connect.
Perfect. I want to thank you. That was a very cool and nice interview, very deep. I like that.
Oh, thank you.
And I know it's going to inspire a lot of people because...
It's the first time I've talked about a lot of this stuff, like outside of my closest friends. So I was nervous.
Yeah, well, you did wonderful.
Okay.
It's going to serve everybody who's watching.
I hope so. That's,
sure.
that's what it's about. And when I went through my journey, I couldn't find anybody who looked like me. I mean, everybody who had strokes were either older or they were going through things where, they should have seen this, whether you could have seen the stroke coming. I didn't see anybody that was, my age or my situation. And it's very isolating. So that's one reason why, I blogged about it. I'm starting to turn that into a book. It's a little more difficult than I thought emotionally. So I hope it helps somebody.
Yeah, it will.
Even one person. That would be awesome.
Yes, I'm sure it will. So I want to thank you, and I want to let our listeners know that I used to do the interviews on a weekly basis. I'm switching to bi-weekly because it's way too much work. Apart from everything else I have to do, like the mother, the job, everything. So I'm going to do that twice, like every 2 weeks. And so next interview will be in 2 weeks. If you want to be interviewed yourself, if you have a story that can inspire, please contact me. Go to my website, datelikeafrenchwoman.com, and shoot me an email, and we'll connect and we'll make that happen. So until I see you again, have a wonderful, inspired, and life aligned with love. That's the most important thing. Bye for now.
Bye.
For questions or to apply for an interview, visit datelikeafrenchwoman.com.